Subscribe to Infidelity Tales Lab for more stories. Now let's begin this one. Roland Flynn had always believed in building things properly. As a pharmaceutical sales representative for the past 8 years, he learned that success came from meticulous planning and understanding human behavior. Every sale, every relationship, every move calculated with precision. That same philosophy had shaped his marriage to Miranda. They'd met 6 years ago at a medical conference in Chicago. Miranda Morris, a dental hygienist with honey blonde hair and a laugh that could light up a room, had crashed into him, literally, while rushing to a networking event. Her coffee had splashed across his white shirt, and she'd been mortified. Roland had simply smiled and said, "Well, now you owe me dinner." They were married within 18 months. Roland was 34 now, in the best shape of his life, with sharp green eyes that missed nothing and a quiet intensity that made people trust him. He wasn't flashy. His dark hair was always neat, his clothes professional but unremarkable. He preferred to observe, to listen, to understand. That's what made him good at his job. That's what would make him good at what was coming. The first crack appeared on a Tuesday evening in March. Roland came home early from a client meeting in Milwaukee. Their colonial-style house in the suburbs of Madison, Wisconsin sat quiet, Miranda's car absent from the driveway. Normal enough, she often worked late at the dental practice. He loosened his tie, grabbed a beer, and settled into his home office to catch up on emails. That's when he noticed Miranda's laptop, left open on the kitchen counter. She never left it out. Ever. Roland walked over, intending to close it, when a notification popped up. A message from someone named Yell, in a messaging app he didn't recognize. "Can't wait to see you tonight. I'm still thinking about last weekend." Something cold settled in Roland's chest. His finger hovered over the trackpad, then clicked. The message thread opened, and Roland's world shifted. Months of messages, photos, plans, detailed accounts of hotel rooms and afternoon appointments. His wife, the woman who'd promised him forever, had been living a separate life. The other man was Antoine Livingston. Roland recognized the name. A fitness trainer at the upscale gym where Miranda had been spending her evenings for the past 6 months. Getting back in shape, she'd said. Roland had encouraged it, even paid for the premium membership. He read through everything methodically, his sales training kicking in. Gather information. Understand the situation. Identify motivations. What struck him wasn't just the betrayal, it was the contempt. In one message, Miranda had written, "Roland's so boring. Always working, always tired. You make me feel alive again." Antoine's response, "Forget him. Once you're free, we can really start our life. Just need to time it right. Maybe wait until he gets that promotion and the divorce settlement is better." They were planning, not just an affair, but an exit strategy designed to maximize Miranda's payout. Roland closed the laptop carefully, his hands steady despite the rage building in his chest. He walked back to his office, sat down, and did what he always did when faced with a problem. He started planning. Roland didn't confront Miranda that night, or the next, or the one after that. Instead, he became a ghost in his own life, present but invisible, watching and learning. He hired a private investigator through a lawyer friend, Benny Benton, whom he'd known since college. Benny specialized in family law and had seen enough messy divorces to know when something needed careful handling. You want the truth or you want to win? Benny had asked over whiskey at their favorite bar. "Both," Roland said. "Then we do this right. No confrontations, just evidence." The investigator, a former cop named Wilbur West, delivered his first report within a week. Photos of Miranda and Antoine at a hotel in downtown Madison. Credit card statements showing Miranda had been using a card Roland didn't know about, opened in her maiden name. Text records that painted an even uglier picture. But Wilbur found something else, something that made Roland's blood boil. "Your wife's been asking about your life insurance," Wilbur said, sliding a document across the table at a coffee shop. "Called your company 3 weeks ago, pretending to be you, asking about the payout structure. The rep didn't give her information, but it's in their call log." Roland stared at the paper. His life insurance policy was for $2 million. Miranda and Antoine weren't just planning a divorce. They were planning something worse. "There's more," Wilbur continued. Antoine Livingston has a record. 2 assault charges, both dropped. 3 different women have restraining orders against him. He's also in debt. About $80,000 in credit cards and a gambling problem. Your wife doesn't know about any of this. Roland absorbed the information silently. Antoine was dangerous, desperate, and using Miranda. And Miranda, blinded by whatever midlife crisis she was having, was a willing accomplice. What do you want to do? Benny asked later that night, after Wilbur had left. Roland took a long sip of his drink. I want them to destroy themselves. But I need to be creative. A divorce would just give her money and set them free. I want them trapped in their own choices. Benny leaned back. Be careful, Ro. Revenge can get messy. Not if you plan it right. Over the next 2 weeks, Roland continued his investigation. He learned that Miranda and Antoine met 3 times a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. He learned that Antoine was already seeing another woman, a wealthy divorcee named Kimberly Boyd, who he was also stringing along. He learned that Miranda had been skipping her birth control pills occasionally, hoping to accidentally get pregnant and trap Roland before leaving him. That detail gave Roland his idea. I need a prescription filled, Roland told his colleague, Dr. Sung Ruiz, over lunch at a medical conference in Minneapolis. Sung was a pharmaceutical rep like Roland, but specialized in hormonal treatments. What kind? Sung asked, curious. Fertility hormones. Clomiphene citrate. About a 3-month supply. Dosage that matches standard birth control pill size. Sung raised an eyebrow. You trying to start a family? Something like that. That's a prescription drug, Ro. I can't just. Roland slid an envelope across the table. Inside were $5,000 in cash. I'm not asking you to do anything illegal. Just help a friend out. Consider it a consulting fee. Sung hesitated, then pocketed the envelope. One time, and we never talk about this again. Deal. 3 days later, Roland had the fertility hormones, pressed into pills identical to Miranda's birth control. Clomiphene citrate, a drug that stimulated ovulation, essentially doing the opposite of contraception. The effects would be gradual, but powerful. If Miranda was already occasionally skipping pills, this would supercharge her fertility. Roland waited for the right moment. Miranda kept her birth control in her purse, usually in a small zipper pocket. She was careless about it, often leaving her purse on the kitchen counter while she showered. On a Wednesday evening, while Miranda was in the bathroom, Roland made the switch. It took 30 seconds. The old pills went into his pocket. The new ones, carefully placed in the original packaging, went into her purse. He felt no guilt, only cold satisfaction. Miranda emerged from the bathroom in a towel, her phone buzzing. She glanced at it and smiled. That secret smile Roland now recognized. Going to yoga, she announced, which was code for meeting Antoine. Have fun, Roland said, his voice steady. I'll order takeout. She kissed his cheek, a mechanical gesture devoid of real affection, and left. Roland sat in the quiet house, a glass of whiskey in his hand, and allowed himself a small smile. The trap was set. Now all he had to do was wait and watch as Miranda and Antoine walked straight into it. He pulled out his phone and texted Wilbur. Keep the surveillance tight. Document everything. This is about to get interesting. The response came immediately. On it. What's your endgame? Roland typed back. Their destruction. Complete and total. Roland became a different person in the weeks that followed. Not visibly. He still went to work, still came home, still played the role of the oblivious husband. But internally, he was a predator circling his prey. He started being extra attentive to Miranda. Flowers on Fridays. Compliments about her appearance. Initiating intimacy more frequently, which she accepted with barely concealed reluctance, but accepted nonetheless. Each encounter was strategic, increasing the chances of the fertility hormones doing their work. You're in a good mood lately, Miranda commented one evening, suspicion flickering across her face. Big promotion coming up, Roland lied smoothly. Johnson account finally came through. Could mean an extra $50,000 a year. He watched her eyes light up with greed. Of course, more money meant a better divorce settlement. That's wonderful, honey, she said, and for a moment, she was almost genuine. Almost. Behind the scenes, Roland was building his case. Benny had helped him open a separate bank account, transferring money strategically to protect his assets. Wilbur continued surveillance, documenting every meeting between Miranda and Antoine. But Roland wanted more than just evidence for divorce court. He wanted Antoine exposed for the predator he was. Through his pharmaceutical contacts, Roland learned that Antoine was dealing steroids at the gym, a side business that supplemented his training income. Roland anonymously tipped off the gym's owner, a straight-laced former Marine named Xavier Jackson, providing photos Wilbur had captured of Antoine making deals in the parking lot. Xavier fired Antoine immediately. The effect was immediate. Without his gym job, Antoine's debt became crushing. He became desperate, angry, and started pressuring Miranda to speed up her divorce plans. "He wants me to leave you now," Miranda told her friend Karina Snyder during a lunch that Wilbur had bugged with a small recording device. "Says we can't keep waiting. But I need more time. Roland's promotion hasn't come through yet." "Are you sure about this guy?" Karina asked, skeptical. "He sounds controlling." "He's passionate," Miranda defended. "Not like Roland, who's just there, always working, never exciting." Roland listened to the recording in his car, his jaw tight. The woman he'd built a life with was describing him like a piece of furniture. Meanwhile, Roland made another anonymous move. He sent information about Antoine's restraining orders and assault charges to Kimberly Boyd, the wealthy divorcee Antoine was also seeing. He included photos of Antoine with Miranda, time-stamped and explicit. Kimberly, it turned out, was not a woman to be trifled with. She confronted Antoine at his apartment, and according to Wilbur's report, the argument was volcanic. "You're done," she'd screamed. "I'll make sure every woman in this city knows what you are." Antoine's world was constricting, and he didn't even realize Roland was the one pulling the strings. 8 weeks after Roland switched the pills, Miranda started feeling sick. "I think I have the flu," she told him one morning, pale and nauseous. "Everything makes me want to throw up." Roland hid his satisfaction. "Maybe see Dr. Gibson? Could be a stomach bug." "Maybe," she muttered, rushing to the bathroom. Roland knew it wasn't the flu. The fertility hormones were working, and from the timing, Miranda was probably already 6 or 7 weeks pregnant. Soon, she'd realize what was happening. He continued his psychological warfare on Antoine. Through a burner phone, he sent anonymous texts hinting that someone was watching him. Photos of Antoine at various locations, with captions like, "I see you," and "You're not as careful as you think." Antoine became paranoid, convinced that Kimberly Boyd had hired someone to follow him. He told Miranda they needed to be more careful. But Miranda was distracted by her illness. She finally made a doctor's appointment, telling Roland it was just a routine checkup. Roland knew better. He checked her pharmacy records through his industry connections. She tried to refill her birth control, but was confused when the prescription seemed off. She'd even called the pharmacy, questioning whether they'd given her the right pills. The pharmacist, following standard protocol, had assured her the pills were correct, which they were technically. They just weren't birth control. During this time, Roland also started building his post-marriage life. He reconnected with old friends, joined a rec league basketball team, and even started seeing a therapist, partly for genuine support, partly to document his own mental state for future legal proceedings. "You seem like you're processing something heavy," the therapist, Dr. Leslie Nicholson, observed during their third session. "I'm just realizing that sometimes the people we love aren't who we thought they were," Roland said carefully. "And sometimes we have to let them go." "That's very mature," Dr. Nicholson said. "Most people want revenge." Roland smiled slightly. "Revenge is messy. I prefer justice." Meanwhile, Antoine's life continued its downward spiral. Without income and with mounting debt, he was being harassed by creditors. His landlord started eviction proceedings. He was drinking more, his temper shorter. Miranda, oblivious to Antoine's complete unraveling, was still planning their future together. She'd even started looking at apartments, using online searches Roland monitored through shared devices. Everything was converging toward the moment Roland had been waiting for. The call came on a Thursday afternoon. Roland was in a client meeting when his phone buzzed. Miranda's name on the screen. He excused himself and answered. Roland, her voice was shaking, tears evident. I'm at the hospital. Can you come? What's wrong? He kept his voice concerned, professional. Just come, please. St. Mary's. 4th floor. He took his time driving there, stopping for coffee, checking his email. Let her wait. Let her panic. When he arrived, Miranda was in a consultation room, her face blotchy from crying. A doctor stood nearby, holding a chart. Mr. Flynn, the doctor said, your wife wanted you here for the results. Results? Roland played ignorant perfectly. Miranda's hand trembled as she reached for his. He let her take it, noting how cold her fingers were. I'm pregnant, she whispered. With twins. Roland let appropriate surprise cross his face. Twins? But we weren't. I mean, you're on birth control. I know. Miranda's voice cracked. I don't understand. I've been taking my pills every day. The doctor interjected. Birth control isn't 100% effective, and twins suggest a fertility surge. It happens, though rarely. Congratulations. Roland turned to Miranda, watching her face crumble. She wasn't happy. There was no joy, only horror. Can we have a minute? Roland asked the doctor. Once alone, Miranda pulled away from him, her phone already in her hand. I need to make a call. Who? Roland asked innocently. Just someone. A friend. She was spiraling, not thinking clearly. Roland watched as she dialed. Through his surveillance setup, he knew exactly who she was calling. Antoine. The phone rang on speaker. Miranda was too frantic to notice. Antoine answered, irritated. What? I'm busy. Antoine, I'm at the hospital. I'm pregnant. With twins. Silence. Long and heavy. Then what? What the hell, Miranda? You said you were on the pill. I am. I don't know how. I'm not raising 2 kids. Antoine's voice exploded through the phone. Are you insane? I can't even pay my rent. You were supposed to get the divorce money first. This ruins everything. Antoine, please. No. We're done. This is too much. You figure this out. The line went dead. Miranda stared at the phone, her face white. Then she turned to Roland, tears streaming. Roland, I need to tell you something. I know about the affair, Roland said calmly. I've known for months. Her mouth opened, closed. You what? Antoine Livingston, the gym trainer. I know everything, Miranda. He kept his voice even, almost gentle. The hotels, the plans to divorce me, all of it. Then why didn't you say anything? Desperation filled her eyes. Because I wanted to see what you'd do, who you really were. He stood, stepping back from her. And now I know. Roland, please. It was a mistake. I can explain. You can explain to your lawyer. I've already filed for divorce. Papers will be served tomorrow. He headed for the door. Wait, Roland, I'm pregnant with your babies. You can't just leave. He turned, his expression cold. Are you sure they're mine, Miranda? Given your activities? The question landed like a bomb. Miranda's face went from desperate to devastated. They're yours, she whispered. The timing, they have to be. Then congratulations, Roland said. I hope you and Antoine. Oh wait, he just abandoned you. I hope you enjoy single motherhood. You wanted excitement. You got it. He walked out, leaving her sobbing in the hospital room. The divorce proceedings moved swiftly. With the evidence Wilbur had gathered, photos, recordings, credit card statements, Miranda had no leverage. Roland's lawyer presented everything in a neat package, demonstrating not only the affair, but Miranda's plans to maximize her divorce settlement. She was using you, Benny explained during one meeting. Planning to wait until after your promotion, possibly even asking about life insurance. The court won't look favorably on that. Miranda tried to fight back, claiming the pregnancy should entitle her to support. But paternity tests, which Roland insisted on immediately, confirmed the twins were his. That actually worked in his favor. You have 2 children coming, his lawyer explained. You'll pay child support, but the court will also see that you're the stable parent. Her affair, her deception, and her poor judgment all work against her in custody arrangements. Miranda was living in a small apartment now, her mother, Trudy Crawford, having flown in from Arizona to help. According to Wilbur's continued surveillance, Miranda spent most days crying, trying desperately to reach Antoine, who had blocked her on every platform. Antoine, meanwhile, had left Madison entirely. Facing eviction and creditor harassment, he'd fled to Minnesota. But Roland wasn't done with him yet. Through his pharmaceutical network, Roland had contacts at several major gyms in Minneapolis. He made sure Antoine's background, the restraining orders, the assault charges, the steroid dealing, was known. Antoine couldn't get work anywhere legitimate. But Roland's masterpiece came when he anonymously tipped off the DEA about Antoine's steroid distribution network. He provided evidence, dates, names of suppliers. The kind of information only someone who'd been watching very carefully would have. 2 months after the hospital revelation, Antoine was arrested. Federal charges for drug distribution, facing 3 to 5 years in prison. Roland read the news article over morning coffee, a small smile on his face. Justice, he murmured to himself. Meanwhile, Miranda continued to unravel. She'd lost her job at the dental practice. The affair had become public knowledge in their social circle, and the practice owner, a conservative man named Raphael Rice, had zero tolerance for immoral conduct among his staff. Without income and with medical bills mounting, Miranda did the unthinkable. She called Roland, begging. "Please," she sobbed on his voicemail. "I know I don't deserve it, but I'm drowning here. The twins are due in 3 months, and I have nothing. No job, no savings. My mom's helping, but she's on a fixed income. Please, Roland, for the babies." Roland listened to the message 3 times, then blocked her number. He wasn't heartless. He'd already arranged to pay child support, generous child support, actually more than the court mandated. But it would go into a trust, managed by his lawyer, specifically for the children's needs. Miranda wouldn't see a dime beyond what was necessary. 6 months after the hospital revelation, Roland sat in Benny's office, signing the final divorce papers. "She's requesting one last meeting," Benny said. "Says she needs closure." Roland considered this. "Fine. Supervised. Your office. Tomorrow." Miranda arrived looking haggard. 7 months pregnant now, her belly prominent beneath a simple dress. Her mother accompanied her, shooting Roland venomous glares. "Thank you for meeting me," Miranda said, her voice small. Roland said nothing, just waited. "I wanted to apologize. In person. For everything." Tears welled in her eyes. "I was stupid and selfish, and I threw away the best thing in my life." "You did," Roland agreed calmly. I need to know why. Why you didn't just confront me? Why all the manipulation?" Roland leaned forward, his green eyes hard. "Because you didn't deserve a clean exit, Miranda. You were planning to use me, drain me financially, possibly worse. You and that criminal you chose over me. I didn't know about his past. You didn't care to know. You were too busy fantasizing about an exciting new life to think about consequences." He stood. "And now you're living with those consequences. Just like Antoine is living with his." Trudy Crawford spoke up, her voice sharp. "You're a cruel man, Roland Flynn. My daughter made a mistake." "Your daughter made a series of calculated choices," Roland interrupted. "And I responded in kind. The only difference is I was smarter about it." "What about the babies?" Miranda's voice broke. "What about our children? They'll be provided for. They'll have everything they need. But you?" Roland's expression didn't soften. "You'll have to rebuild your life from scratch. Just like you forced me to do." "I never forced. You destroyed our marriage for a fantasy. A lying, abusive criminal with a gambling problem. You chose that over me, over us, over our vows." Roland picked up his briefcase. "Now you have twins on the way. No partner, no job, no prospects. Antoine's in federal prison. Your reputation is ruined. And I'm moving on. Roland, please." He walked to the door, then paused. "When the twins are born, I'll be present in their lives. I'll be the father they deserve. But you and me, we're done. Forever." He left the room, leaving Miranda sobbing in her mother's arms. Outside, Wilbur was waiting in the parking lot. "All good?" the investigator asked. "Perfect," Roland said. "Is everything else in place?" "Yep. Her lease is month to month, like you requested. Child support trust is established. Your name's been removed from all shared accounts. Your ghost." Roland nodded. "And Antoine pleaded guilty." Got 4 years. He's at a federal facility in Minnesota. Apparently, prison doesn't suit him. Good. 1 year later, Roland Flynn stood in his new home, a modern townhouse in a quiet neighborhood on the other side of Madison. He'd sold the house he'd shared with Miranda, splitting the equity but keeping the bulk of his assets through the divorce settlement. His life had transformed completely. The promotion he'd mentioned to Miranda had actually materialized, bringing a significant raise. He'd started dating again, casually, taking his time. No rush. He'd learned to trust carefully. The twins, a boy and a girl he named Hunter and Taylor, were 4 months old now. Roland had insisted on joint custody, and after a court evaluation, he'd been granted equal parenting time. Miranda had tried to fight it, but her instability, combined with Roland's exemplary preparations as a father, had worked against her. He saw his children every other week, and those weeks were the highlight of his life. He'd converted a bedroom into a nursery, hired a part-time nanny for support, and threw himself into fatherhood with the same meticulous planning he applied to everything else. Miranda was surviving. Barely. She'd moved back to Arizona with her mother. The winters in Wisconsin, too much to handle as a struggling single mother. She had a job at a retail store, lived with Trudy, and from what Roland heard through the custody coordinator, was in therapy. He felt no satisfaction in her struggles, but no guilt either. She'd made her choices. Antoine, meanwhile, had become a cautionary tale. His arrest and conviction had made local news, and the details of his crimes, the steroid dealing, the multiple women he'd conned, his violence, had all come out. He'd probably serve 3 years if he behaved, then face parole and a ruined life. Roland never thought about him anymore. On this particular evening, Roland sat in his home office, a glass of bourbon in hand, reviewing financial statements. He'd invested the money he'd protected from the divorce wisely. His children's college funds were established. His retirement accounts were growing. Life was good. His phone buzzed. A text from a woman named Shelley Stout, someone he'd met at a charity event last month. They'd been on 3 dates, and she was intelligent, funny, and refreshingly honest. Dinner this weekend? There's a new Italian place I want to try. Roland smiled and typed back. Sounds perfect. Saturday at 7. It's a date. He set the phone down and looked around his home. Clean, organized, peaceful. Everything he'd built after the chaos. Some might say what he'd done to Miranda and Antoine was extreme. Cruel even. But Roland saw it differently. He'd simply given them exactly what they'd tried to give him. A life shattered by their own choices. The fertility hormones had been the catalyst, yes. But everything that followed, the abandonment, the financial ruin, the imprisonment, those were consequences they'd created themselves. He just orchestrated the timing. Was it manipulation? Absolutely. Was it justice? In his mind, completely. Roland raised his glass in a solitary toast. To new beginnings, he said quietly, and to never making the same mistake twice. His phone buzzed again. This time, it was a photo from the nanny, Hunter and Taylor, sleeping peacefully in their cribs. Roland's expression softened. Whatever darkness had lived in his actions over the past year, it had secured something important. His children would never grow up in a house of lies. They know their father as a man who protected what mattered, who didn't tolerate betrayal, who valued strength over weakness. And someday, when they were old enough to understand, he'd tell them the truth. Not to make them hate their mother, but to teach them a valuable lesson. Actions have consequences. Choose wisely. Roland closed his laptop, finished his bourbon, and headed to bed. Tomorrow was a new day, another chance to build, to plan, to create something better. And this time, he was building it entirely on his own terms. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.